When I was a kid, I really liked Sonic. I mean, I really liked Sonic. I was definitely the target demographic, and that marketing machine worked almost too well on me. It all started with Sonic 2 on my aunt and uncle's Sega Genesis that we would play anytime we visited. My sister loved that game, and we would never really get that far in it, but it was the first time I ever saw the guy. Eventually, one Christmas with my new PS2, I got Sonic Mega Collection Plus, a huge collection of Sonic and other Sega games that I played to death. Yeah, I would only get about 2 or 3 stages in any given game before dying and giving up, but I loved playing those games and it made me a lifelong Sonic fan. I played any Sonic game I could get my hands on. Heroes, Shadow, Gems, is that Sonic on a skate or a hoverboard? Hell, I was hyped as possible for Sonic 06 that when it came out, I gaslit myself into liking it for a while. But there was one Sonic game I could never get my hands on. I saw footage of it and I heard buzz about it, but I never got to play it myself. Sonic Adventure 2.
Subject A. Good hedgehog. Subject B. Evil hedgehog. Introducing Shadow from Sonic Adventure 2.
Luckily, a friend of mine had a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the GameCube that he temporarily traded with me for my copy of Sonic 06. And man, oh man, I played the hell out of Sonic Adventure 2. And so did my brothers, who then at one point left the disc sitting on the desk with the shiny side down, which scratched it beyond repair, and I had to let my friend keep my copy of Sonic 06. Sorry, Joe. I still think I came out better. I would get the later release of Sonic Adventure 2 on Xbox Live and PSN, and yes, I do mean I got it on both consoles. And I still really liked it back then. But now that the Sonic 3 movie is on the Horizon Zero Dawn and very clearly is taking a lot from Sonic Adventure 2, I figured it's finally time to go back to Sonic Adventure 2 and see if it's still as good as I remember. Okay, why am I keeping up this charade? You already know it's not as good as the fans claimed it to be, and I went into it expecting that to be the case. There have been so many goddamn videos talking about Sonic Adventure 2 not actually being good or how it's dated or poorly designed. I'm not here to act like we have to have a big discussion on how nostalgia blinds people to the reality of the media they enjoyed as kids, because no duh. The point of this video is not, is Sonic Adventure 2 still good? But rather, is Sonic Adventure 2 still fun despite its many, many flaws? Which I will get into because, oh man, this game does have some flaws, man. In June 2001, Sonic Adventure 2 was the final Sonic game released on the final Sega console, the Sega Dreamcast. Later that same year, in December 2001 in Japan, and the following year in February 2002, the game was ported to the Nintendo GameCube, making it the first Sonic game to be released on a Nintendo console. The original release was to coincide with Sonic's 10th anniversary, which I really don't know why Sega is always making Sonic's birthday a big deal with diminishing results. But was also usually when the better Sonic games came out, but this 10th anniversary was also going to be the sequel to the critically acclaimed Sonic Adventure, which is also the butt of the not as good as you remember argument that internet likes to have. But Adventure 2 set out to improve everything. Instead of awkward, poorly directed cutscenes, the cutscenes are cinematic with actual animation and not breathing cycles repeated over and over. Instead of having the game split up into a bunch of playthroughs, there are only 2 playthroughs, each sharing a rotation of 3 gameplay styles. The speed, faster. The music, better. The story, way more dramatic. Adventure 2 was going to be the end-all be-all 3D Sonic game, at a time when 3D games were still in its infancy. Sonic being in 3D only had adventure, which people certainly liked, but
oh yeah, this is happening.
Could use improvements. So Adventure 2 came out and everyone liked it, but now it's 2024 and I'm gonna play it because I'm trying really hard to impress my fiance.
Ooh, Thomas.
He didn't jump! I'm playing the PS3 version because I didn't want to take the Xboxone out of the closet, and I'm a Sony pony, so let's see what Adventure Sonic will take us on to. Right off the bat, I gotta say, the music is still some of the best in the whole franchise. Literally the whole game, find me one bad song. What makes the music in this game particularly so good in a franchise full of amazing tracks is that each character has their own musical styling. I'll get more into it when I actually talk about the characters, but just know that the music variety in this game is definitely the widest out of all of them in the franchise.
Story select.
So as I said previously, there are 2 playthroughs in the game, the hero side with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and the dark side with Dr. Eggman and 2 newcomers to the series, Shadow and Rouge. Having multiple routes in a game is definitely not anything new by the time this game was released. Hell, Adventure 1 did it with like 6 playable characters. But I think Adventure 2 does it way better because it's not overwhelming or overcomplicated like Adventure 1 was. We just have 2 parallel stories going on, the good guys and the bad guys. And for a game for a younger audience, it makes it a lot easier to follow. But just to make it even simpler, I'll talk about the story chronologically. The dark story has the earliest point with Dr. Eggman infiltrating the military base to recover one of his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik's experiments. This experiment is Shadow the Hedgehog, who is apparently the ultimate life form. That is such an edgy title. After demonstrating his power, Shadow tells Eggman that if he helps Shadow get 7 Chaos Emeralds, Eggman can have ultimate power, which is later revealed to be referring to the Eclipse Cannon, an ultra-powerful weapon that requires all 7 Chaos Emeralds to reach full power, located on the space colony Ark that Shadow originated from. So Eggman and Shadow head off to find the emeralds, Shadow whom of which is causing a bunch of havoc in the city. Because of this, and the fact that Shadow in the darkness, and if you like squint and lose a few IQ points, kind of sorta maybe looks like Sonic, is why the hero story starts with Sonic being held captive by the military.
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
He escapes, but this is when Sonic encounters Shadow for the first time. Now knowing the stakes, it becomes a game of cat and mouse. Sonic, teaming up with Tails and Knuckles, go after Eggman and Shadow to stop their plot. Well, Knuckles is more concerned with getting the pieces of the Master Emerald he shattered again. And Eggman and Shadow team up with Rouge the Bat, a jewel thief slash treasure hunter who is not very subtly working for the military and is also more concerned with getting the pieces of the shattered Master Emerald because they're shiny, to find the 7 Chaos Emeralds to power the Eclipse Cannon and take over the world. Now there's nothing wrong with this base plot. It's simple enough for anyone to follow, but it's complicated enough to keep it interesting. The issue, however, is with the execution of the plot after it gets started. Things just sort of happen. Plot points are brought up and then not utilized very well. Like after the establishment of Eggman and Shadow working together, Eggman just ends up at a base in the desert, which has a teleporter to the space colony Ark. Did Shadow tell him this was there, or did he already know? Hell, the first thing he does when he gets there is just watch TV, so at first I thought this was his base, but then why was it swarming with gun robots? And if there's a teleporter there, then why later in the game is a rocket getting launched with no explanation? Or like how Sonic gets nabbed by the military for a second time and all of a sudden Tails is already on his way to the prison island to rescue him, yet Sonic and Tails never interact on that island. Amy is the one who lets Sonic out, and Sonic only mentions Tails when he's running out of time before the island explodes. Hell, Knuckles is only with the group through happenstance, and his side of the plot barely matters to the rest of the plot outside of Rouge. Speaking of, what about the subplot about how Rouge is actually the spy for the military? It doesn't really get brought up all that much or really matter to the plot at all. And when Shadow brings it up, he says it like she's a known spy.
You're that government spy, Rouge the Bat, aren't you?
As if her name wouldn't have been a dead giveaway? At least I can say the characters are all fun and fit their archetypes way better than in Adventure 1, mainly due to the voice acting quality being a direct upgrade from the previous game. Since Rouge and Shadow are newcomers here, they do get a lot of screen time throughout the game and their personalities shine through. Rouge is definitely the classic femme fatale type who's quick to take charge of the group when she joins up with Eggman and Shadow. Though again, her being a spy really doesn't add much because they really don't do a whole lot of it with the story. Still, Rouge is definitely a fun character. I always appreciate that her design having the heart motif going on with her chest piece and boots, and making those parts pink whereas the rest is either white or black makes her stand out amongst the rest of the cast. She dresses the way you expect someone who fancies themselves a thief to dress, and it really works here.
You just wanted to hold my hand, didn't you? That's why you saved me. You're such a creep.
Shadow is probably the most interesting to go back to in this entry because of how different he is compared to later in the series. Whereas Sonic was originally the edgy alternative to Mario, Shadow is the edgy alternative to Sonic, and they made him ooze with early 2000s grunge, emo, dark, mysterious archetypes that it's no wonder that he became the apple to my 12-year-old self's eye. Between his wonderfully edgy color palette and design, and his personality, which is a mix of being the mysterious character with a dark past and being cocky because he knows he was designed to be the best. And really, would you expect to hear current Shadow say,
Ouch!
Actually, Shadow's plotline I feel is the best part about Sonic Adventure 2's story, and it's also the biggest part that I can't stand because they wasted so much potential with it. See, his whole thing is that back when he was living on the Ark, he witnessed his sort of surrogate sister Maria get murdered by the military as she sent him back down to Earth to give him a chance to live. I am talking about a Sonic game, yes. Shadow interprets her last words as her begging Shadow to get revenge, which is Shadow's ultimate goal in the end, but of course right before the end he realizes that she was actually urging Shadow to give humans a chance and has a change of heart. That on its own is fine, and I'd even say it's well portrayed here. What I hate is that Rouge brings something up near the end of the game. The concept that Shadow might not even be the original Shadow, that he might just be a replica of some kind.
Even if my names are not, it's still me, Shadow.
And you see Shadow waver at the idea that he might not actually be himself. That is such a great concept for Shadow's character that it's just not touched aside from the scene. Giving Shadow both the memory of Maria thinking she wants him to take revenge for her, and also giving him this inner struggle about whether or not he really is Shadow is something I really wish we could have explored more of. And we almost do with Shadow fighting the prototype of the ultimate life form. One could take this as an allegory of Shadow facing his inner demons, but not enough plot is here to give that much weight. And yes, I know, it's a Sonic game, it's not that deep. But these are themes that would be explored later in Shadow the Hedgehog. And of course, that game is that game.
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
This game being this game, it's clear they were more concerned with just getting you to the next level. That's probably why characters end up places with little to no explanation, or plot points come up that have little to no impact on the plot at all. Sonic Adventure 1 was actually very cutscene heavy and had a lot of open world segments and downtime in between stages. Adventure 2 is like fucking Knuckles finds parts of the emerald in the mine, he pops out of a grave, meets up with a group, okay, go to the next stage. And the cutscenes, I mean...
I'm the world's ultimate life form. Farewell.
Yeah, so the sound mixing is pretty bad, but it's not like it makes it so bad to the point you can't even hear anyone talk about vital plot points. That's probably why Comic Sans Spawn is always there. Again, they are better than Adventure 1, way more cinematic and have actual pacing. But the sound mixing is absolute dog shit. It actually makes it harder to follow along. The cutscenes are a means just to get you to the next stage though. And thank God, because this is a video game. Stuff happens, stage. Stuff happens, stage. Stuff happens, stage. It's honestly awesome. But with how games are nowadays, it feels really nice to come back to a game where progression is as simple as just beating a stage or a boss and moving on. And the stages here are where a lot of debate about Sonic Adventure 2 comes from. So we have 3 different gameplay styles: Sonic and Shadow's speed stages, Tails and Eggman's mech stages, and Knuckles and Rouge's treasure hunting stages. Sonic and Shadow stages are obviously the best, so I'll come back to those. Between the other 2 gameplay stylings, it's kind of hard to say which is better or worse than the other. The mech stages are odd feeling. You don't really get a sense of speed from them. They're just kind of shooting galleries, which are fun to a point, because they're in mechs and they move quite clunkily, and that got me killed on many occasions. No! Aside from a hover upgrade, you don't get a whole lot in terms of traversal other than walk and jump. They almost feel out of place here. I know they're supposed to be like the Gamma stages in Adventure 1, but that one felt out of place too. I think for me personally, these are the least fun stages to play on repeat playthroughs. Especially since, while good, the music for both versions of the stages are generic. Tails is sort of like a pop rock thing going on. And Eggman's is more industrial rock. Some good tracks, but I don't know if I'd say any of them are the best. The treasure hunting stages... okay. These ones are the most universally hated due to the nature of the gameplay loop within them. So you gotta find 3 pieces of the Master Emerald in each stage, or keys, or Chaos Emeralds. So the closer you get to one of them, the radar will start to beep from green to red. The issue is, for some reason, even though in the previous game it did not work like this, you can only get a reading on 1 emerald at a time in order from left to right. Meaning, even if you are close to Emerald 2 or 3, if you haven't gotten 1 yet, you will not get any reaction out of the 2 other emeralds. Something Adventure 1 did not do. You could get any reading out of any emerald in any order in that game. This is what I think makes these stages so much more frustrating than they need to be. That and the fact that a lot of them are just too goddamn big. Both Knuckles and Rouge can run fast and climb walls and glide far distances, and their movement feels very, very satisfying in my opinion. But once the stage gets too big, and given you will only get 1 reading on 1 emerald at a time, you'll feel like you're running around in very quick circles trying to find anything. Some stages took me upward of 8 minutes to complete. 8 minutes in a Sonic game. It can feel absolutely maddening to play some of these stages. And yet sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get lucky and find the emeralds really quick, or maybe the scattered hints will actually help you. Hell, every run is seeded, so if you know all the patterns, you can recognize a hint pattern and you can just get it done like that. And not only that, but these stages have the best tracks in the whole game. Rouge has this spy jazz thing going on, which I love. And Knuckles... Okay, so was Knuckles one of those black characters who aren't actually black before the adventure games, or are these the ones that start that? Because honestly, I'm here for it. I cannot say that these are well-designed stages, but I do find myself appreciating these stages more than the mech ones, since those ones are more boring than anything. They might be frustrating, but they also have music that never gets old and gameplay that does feel fun to play. If the mech stages are like a bologna and cheese sandwich, then the treasure hunting stages are like a Whopper from Burger King. Not everyone likes a Whopper. Hell, even if you do, sometimes you get that one that makes you go, oh, that was a bad idea. But you know that sometimes a Whopper does hit good. In which case the speed stages are like a goddamn roiled Red Robin from Red Robin. Yum. Look, I know these stages have a lot of issues, which I will get into, but even after all this time, I still have such a good time with them. The sense of speed, different movement options, amount of replayability, they are incredibly fun, especially compared to the speed bumps that are the other stage types. The speed stages are even more linear than the mech stages are, but the whole idea is to get to the end of the stage while going real fast. What helps the feeling of momentum that these stages have really comes down to two key factors. One is that Sonic and Shadow are just really fun to control. They take almost no time to reach a fast speed, and they feel incredibly snappy while performing any action, which really can be detrimental sometimes. But to me, part of the fun is getting so good with the controls that mistakes like that don't happen when you try doing something crazy like diving off the side of a stage to skip a part of the level. I'm not good at this. And two is that every single mechanic you are given is used for movement options and keeping up a fast pace. Enemy and obstacle placements, your character's upgrades, the level layout itself is all made with the idea of you using them to go really fast. Every character gets upgrades in the game that give them some sort of ability or traversal option, but only Sonic and Shadow gets stuff like the Lightspeed Dash so they can zip through a line of rings, or Sonic's Bounce Bracelet so you can boing yourself up to new heights. Even without them, Sonic and Shadow's base homing attack is an attack that automatically launches you towards the nearest enemy, and you can do this in rapid succession. That, along with being able to do tricks off ramps or grinding on rails, these stages almost feel like you're parkouring through them, and that's why people love them so much. As much fun as the boost formula in the later Sonic games are fun, you don't get the same sense of stringing together this line of actions that lead you to the goal like in these stages. It's a feeling of freedom to get to the end in the most efficient and fastest way possible that make the speed stages the best part of Sonic Adventure 2. Along with Sonic's upbeat rock tunes, and Shadow's darker, edgier rock influence. These right here are the parts of the game people are talking about when they talk about Sonic Adventure 2. Yes, the mech and treasure hunting stages are there, and you'll either tolerate them or despise them, but the speed stages are definitely worth coming back to when they work. See, this game is a victim of being held together with early 2000 3D gaming tape, so sometimes homing attacks or other collisions will not work properly, and you'll die when it's 100% not your fault. But that's still not enough for me to say that these stages aren't fun as hell. And I think my favorite example of this gameplay style being both fun and unique is the final fight between Sonic and Shadow. Every character has two fights against their counterparts, and they usually are just wait for them to attack and then counter them. Even the first fight between Sonic and Shadow is like this. But the second one isn't in an arena type setting like the others. It's on this long, infinite road that's constantly falling behind you, so you have to keep moving. All the while, you have to find openings to take advantage of and attack your opponent during. And this really makes you use every single ability to try to make these openings happen, not to mention how it keeps the fight incredibly fast-paced. It's probably the only time a fight in this game feels tailor-made for this gameplay style. Sure, the other boss fights are fine and use everyone's abilities to a degree, but this fight is the one you can only get out of characters like Sonic and Shadow. Plus, the music is really cool here. So what does it all add up to? We got three types of... What? Oh, right. There's also two kart racing levels. It controls bad. We got three types of stages, and only one is wholly good, while the other two range from mediocre to bad. It's really hard for me to recommend Sonic Adventure 2 to a modern audience because of this. The speed stages are really fun, and if the whole game was just these, I'd say it's easily worth your time. But even as somebody who doesn't hate the other stage types, I too find it really hard to want to play this game because of those stages. If you're already a Sonic fan and haven't played this game, then yeah, I'd say you should play it, despite the fact that even if you do like the two slower stage types, they really aren't the best. But the one good stage type will make it all worth it in the end. If you aren't a Sonic fan, why are you watching this video? It's not going to convert you. It's not going to make you feel any sort of way. You will not see something here that you couldn't see in any other Sonic game. Maybe if you're in the old school polygonal games from the Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube era, then maybe you'll get a kick out of it. But if you want something that does what this game set out to do, but better, then check out Spark the Electric Jester 2 and 3. They ape on the Sonic Adventure 2 speed stages and make them work a lot better than they did before. And they did not tack on two other pointless stage types. They are much, much, much more worth your time if you want a wholly sound experience. But then again, the reason why I like Sonic Adventure 2 is because it's an old busted mess. The sound mixing is terrible, and the story doesn't do anything interesting with the ideas it presents. Some of the stages are lame, but when it gets good, it's really good, and the pacing is at least lightning fast with very little downtime. And the characterization of everyone here is enough for me to appreciate what it did for the Sonic series, since this is what the characters became going forward. So Sonic Adventure 2 is not a good game, but it is a very fun game, and I'll always appreciate it for being just that. Fun. Wait, I forgot about the Chow Garden. Fucking, you get items through the stages and you go to this garden where you can take care of these little Tamagotchi guys and make them do races and fight and stuff. I spent a million hours playing this when I was younger, but look, I'm 27 years old now. I cannot justify spending that much time on this, but god damn it, Sega, you guys need to put Chow Garden in a new Sonic game already. When I bought Sonic X Shadow Generations, the guy at GameStop asked me if there was a Chow Garden in it, and when I said no, he was very disappointed. People have more of an emotional connection to the Tamagotchi minigame than the actual game it's attached to. If that's not so typical for the Sonic fan base, I really don't know what is. Hey, fucking thanks for watching my video. If you're watching this far, then you are cool and handsome, and I want you to subscribe and comment and like and follow me on other social medias, and I'm not very good at this.